cathedral. It's almost 1,000 years old. And it seemed to me the perfect setting for a Christmas celebration that would have to be different. For almost 20 years, if you live in Britain, you may know that I conduct a pair of concerts in London's Royal Albert Hall each year with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra and with a large choir, with soloists, and most important, with an audience of 5,500 people who sing their lungs out in some of the great Christmas hymns. And it became apparent during this extraordinary year that we weren't going to be able to hold that Christmas celebration in anything like the form that it has always been. No large choir allowed, only a proportion of the orchestra allowed, and above all, the audience not allowed to sing. And so I went to my friends at the orchestra and said, look, I don't think we should let the virus cancel Christmas. We must celebrate and mark this great festival, but we have to do it in a different way. And they said, well, what? And I said, let us go global. And we will film a Christmas celebration. And I suggested St. Albans Cathedral, and they said, gosh, yeah, great. And so I put together this Christmas celebration, which has as many of the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra as we could fit in. It has got the glorious sound of the St. Albans Cathedral organ. It has got a brilliant young vocal octet called Voces 8, and it has 3 wonderful soloists. But the one thing it lacked was a big choir to sing our grand finale, which is Hark the Herald Angels Sing. And fate intervened in a rather wonderful way, because Tori was kind enough to get in touch with me and say, look, we're going to do a Christmas project, and I hear you're doing a Christmas concert. May we be part of it? And I said, yes, wonderful idea. And so you will be the grand finale to this concert. And Hark the Herald is, of course, one of the greatest of Christmas hymns. It has an extraordinary history. The words were written by Charles Wesley in the 18th century. The music was written after Wesley's death by Mendelssohn. And if you look at Charles Wesley's original text, it's nothing like the text that we sing today. It starts, hark how all the welkin rings, glory to the King of Kings. And that's fine, but I don't think too many people know what a welkin is. Well, in fact, it just means the vault of heaven. And so it really means, hark how all of heaven rings, glory to the King of Kings. And it was one of Wesley's disciples, Whitfield, who changed it to the form that we're now familiar with. Wesley didn't like the idea of that a bit, and he actually wrote these words: many gentlemen have done my brother and me, though without naming us, the honor to reprint many of our hymns. Now they're perfectly welcome to do so, provided they print them just as they are. But I desire they would not attempt to mend them, for they really are not able. None of them is able to mend either the sense or the verse. Therefore, I must beg of them one of 2 favors, either to let them stand just as they are, to take them for better or worse, or to add the true reading in the margin or at the bottom of the page, that we may no longer be accountable either for the nonsense or for the doggerel of other men. Oh dear, I wouldn't have liked to get into an argument with him. But of course, I'm afraid it is in the altered form that we know this wonderful hymn text. And how did Mendelssohn come to be associated with it? Well, again, it's perhaps not widely known that the tune comes from a cantata that Mendelssohn wrote in the year 1840 to celebrate the 400th anniversary of the invention of printing by Gutenberg. It was for male voice and male voice choir, brass band, And the original words go, Vaterland, in deinem Gauen brach der goldene Tag einst an. Deutschland, deine Völker sahen seinen Schimmer niedertauen. And then it goes on, Gutenberg, der deutsche Mann, Gutenberg, der deutsche Mann, zündet hier die Fackel an. Gutenberg, der deutsche Mann, zündete die Fackel an. And not many people sing it to those words these days. And it was actually an English choral musician called William Henry Cummings who had the bright idea of wedding Mendelssohn's tune to Wesley's altered words. And that was despite Mendelssohn's express wish that nobody would put any sacred words to his tune, because he said he would never do with sacred words, never do at all. Well, I think he must have been wrong. Because it's become one of the most beloved of hymns. And its history doesn't end there, because somebody I know very well, knew very well till the end of his long life, and who was a great mentor and inspiration to me, Sir David Wilcox, wrote the descant to the third verse that has become just about as well known as the tune. Now that's quite something when a descant is as well known as the tune that it adorns. And of course, he didn't just hit the jackpot once with this lovely descant. He did another one that I'm sure many of you know, equally renowned, to O Come All Ye Faithful. Definitive, really, and scribbled out on a train journey. And if I know anything about his working methods, the Hark the Herald descant was probably done at the very last minute in a back room in King's College, Cambridge, where he was director of the renowned choir. And every year, the annual festival of 9 lessons and carols broadcast to the world on Christmas Eve is a highlight of the singing year for the choir and for the millions of people who still to this day listen to it worldwide. And do you know, Hark the Herald Angels Sing had never really had a descant that anybody remembered. And it was in the year 1960 that David added this wonderful descant. And it's caught on. It was in the first volume of the famous Carols for Choirs series of books. I was very honoured because I was a student of David's at Cambridge University to be invited by him to co-edit the second volume, Carols for Choirs 2, the orange book that you will perhaps know, and then volume 3 and volume 4, and finally in 1986, 100 Carols for Choirs. It was a long and happy association that he was privileged, I was privileged to be let into, really, because he was the senior editor and a most wonderful person to work with. Oh, goodness me. He wrote a descant, as I've explained. He also wrote a wonderful fanfare that follows the last verse of the hymn, which you will hear played by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra after you have completed your third verse. And that was scribbled out in the conductor's room at the Royal Albert Hall for one of his concerts there that he used to hold each year with the Bach Choir and the Philip Jones Brass Ensemble. And I think I'm remembering this correctly. He wrote it out in the lunch hour before the concert and handed me the scribbled score and said, John, quick, copy the parts. We're going to do this fanfare in the concert. And that was how the fanfare originated.
And there's another
actually,
fanfare, right?
Yes, Tori, the story doesn't even quite end there because there's a fanfare preceding the first verse, which I wrote some years after that for a television program. And you will hear that introductory fanfare as well. So in one hymn, we've got Wesley, Whitfield, Cummings, Mendelssohn, Wilcox, and Rutter, all contributing to the end product. And I'm delighted that you will be part of our Christmas celebration from St. Albans Cathedral that's going to be streamed very shortly before Christmas itself.
That's absolutely right. And Rachel, am I right in thinking that we have the fanfare there in order to for us all to be able to listen to it?
That's right, yeah.
Great. This is the fanfare that John's written for the beginning of Hark the Herald. Oh, it's so Christmassy. Oh, goodness me, I can't wait. I'm feeling in the mood already, even though it is perhaps a little early. Now, John, I've seen a couple of really interesting questions come through in the chat. Patty Austin asked if it's true that you are 5 handshakes away from Beethoven.
That is the story I like to tell, and it's just that I knew some years ago a lovely dear composer called Herbert Howells, who's a name well known to church musicians, and we shook hands. He was a lovely silvery-haired gentleman. I was a young aspiring composer just starting out. Anyway, Herbert Howells was a pupil of Stanford, Charles Stanford, again, a name well known to church musicians, at the Royal College of Music in the years just before the First World War. And I'm sure they shook hands. Howells was actually Stanford's favorite pupil. Now, okay, pay attention, because Stanford studied composition in Germany, where he met Brahms, and I'm sure they shook hands. Brahms knew Franz Liszt, and although they were very different composers and they kept their distance a bit, I think they probably did shake hands. And when Franz Liszt was a child prodigy pianist, he was taken to play to the great Beethoven, and no doubt they shook hands. So there you are. I can't actually prove it, but I like to think it's true. And I have to say, I told this story some years ago in New York with a large chorus of high school students. And at the end of the rehearsal, one of the chorus members, young girl, came up to me, and she asked for an autograph, and we chatted for a little bit and we shook hands. And I said, there you are. I said, you're only 6 handshakes away from Ludwig van Beethoven. And she looked at me and she said, well, I've got news for you. She said, you're only 1 away from Bill Clinton.
Wow.
Her high school had been on a field trip to the White House. So there we are. That is my link to Beethoven. And I can't actually prove any of it, but it's nice to think that it could be true.
That's wonderful, and thank you, Patty, for raising that really interesting point. Now, I've got a question here, which actually I can see Susie's with us. So, Susie, I'm going to unmute you, and maybe you could ask your question directly to John. Susie, this is Anna's mum, Susie Lapwood.
Hi, John. Lovely to see you. I was really keen to know what of all your wonderful compositions you're most delighted or proud of having composed.
Oh, golly, no, that would be like looking at yourself in the mirror and admiring the view, you know. I mean, no. Always the next one that I haven't written. I just do, like every composer known to me, we all do our very best with each and every piece that we write. We all write with all our heart and soul, and we just hope that we will learn by our mistakes, and that whatever we write next may be a little better than whatever we wrote last. So no, I don't look in the rearview mirror. I really don't. You know, I don't think many composers do, actually. I think we just concentrate on the job in hand. That's my honest belief.
Well, what you have written certainly does communicate the heart and soul in a very powerful way. Wonderful. Thank you.
So, John, does that mean that there's lots of nice, exciting new music in the pipeline?
Well, the project I'm working on at the moment is a piece which is forming part of a 30-minute thank you to the wonderful Oxford vaccine team from the city of Oxford to just encourage them along and thank them in their work as they labour day and night to save the world. And it's rather a responsibility. I mean, I'm trying not to worry about it, but I will have the Oxford Philharmonic Orchestra, Bryn Terfel as our soloist, and the choir we are hoping of Merton College, Oxford. And in the space of what will be perhaps a 4 or 5 minute piece, I want to in some way say thank you to those amazing people. And they deserve every encouragement from us all. And, you know, they probably are not seeing much of anybody else at the moment because they would be working so hard. But one of the lovely things about music is that you can sometimes say what's difficult to express in words. And our gratitude and our indebtedness to them, and a sort of pat on the back and say, you know, keep up the good work, is something that you can do in music. And I am working on it at this very moment. And exciting, a bit awe-inspiring, but you just have to say, well, all I can do is my best. I'm looking forward to it. The deadline is looming, which is always the composer's best incentive, I think it's true to say.
Well, we can't wait to hear it. It's so interesting. And thank you so much for sharing that little sneak preview with us. John, it's been a pleasure to have you here to introduce the piece. We're now going to crack on with our rehearsal. So we're going to have a quick warm-up. We're going to do some physical with Jamie. I'll do a vocal warm-up. And then we will split into 2 breakout rooms where we will go through all of the nuts and bolts of Hark the Herald. John, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, it's been my pleasure too. And do you know, I think that the way of working that the stay-at-home choir has established will remain after the pandemic is over, because it is extraordinary to be able to bring together singers from different continents, from different cultures, through this extraordinary medium of electronics, really. It wasn't possible when I was a kid. It was possible, but was hardly done at all, even a year ago. But we have all learned a lot in this 1 year. And I think the positives about stay-at-home choir are really rather extraordinary. It makes it possible for people who live in remote places to be part of the choir, possible for people who live in different countries, possible for people who are perhaps physically disabled or housebound for one reason or another, or people whose work patterns are so irregular that they really can't promise every Tuesday night to choir. And I think there's something rather moving and symbolic about that in a quite fractured world. So often musicians lead the way and show all of us what we could be as human beings. And so I think in a way this is something more powerful than just some people singing Hark the Herald Angels Sing. I think there is more to it than that. So I send my very best wishes and blessings, and I hope you enjoy this Christmas project. And I suppose the obvious thing, if it's not too early to say so, is a very merry and blessed Christmas to you all.
Thank you so much, John. And in true stay-at-home choir style, I'm going to remove the spotlight so that we can all give you a good old stay-at-home choir jazz hands. I hope you can see the grid. You have 766 people showing their appreciation for your introduction and your words of wisdom, and for being so kind and generous about the work that we're doing, bringing people together online. John, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Great. All right, Jamie, shall we kick off?
I think that's time for a warm-up. Let's go. If you're able to, stand up with me. We'll do a bit of physical warm-up. If you're not able to stand, make sure, please, wherever you're sitting, you are sat up nice and straight, as well as you possibly can, preferably on the front of your chair. If you are in a sofa, I'm a little bit jealous, but make sure you are sat up, ready to sing, just as you would in a normal rehearsal. Let's start with a bit of physical. Reaching up, please. And if, like me, during lockdown, all of your clothes have shrunk for some reason, just pull them down if you need. Still haven't figured out why. Good. Reach up even taller on your tiptoes. And back down. And reach out. See if you can extend through your middle fingers. Imagine you're growing outwards. See if you can touch the walls either side of you. I almost can in my tiny little London flat. Good, reaching up one last time and leaning backwards, not too far, just enough to feel a bit of a stretch, and leaning forwards and leaning backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. And just keep praising me for a moment. Thank you. There's my terrible British sense of humor kicking in there. Good. Shoulders back. Lane, it's a bit late at night, early in the morning for a warm-up. I'll forgive you just this once, Lane. Don't worry. Good. See if you can find every nook and cranny in your shoulder muscles here. We hold so much tension in our shoulders, particularly if, like us at the moment, you're in lockdown. Shoulders forwards now. If you're in lockdown, sat at a desk for a lot of time, it can introduce a lot of tension. Good. Breathing in, tensing every muscle. Go. And breathe out, relax. Notice the tension you're holding, particularly in your shoulders, maybe a little bit of tension in your chest, and particularly tension in your neck around your larynx. Same again, breathing in, tense everything. Squeeze. Check out my double chin and breathe out, go. One more of those, go. And breathe out. Good. Take your hand for me, put your thumb in your belly button and let your hand sit just beneath it. Take your other thumb, give me a thumbs up because I need one right now. Thanks, everyone. Stick your thumb in your side. We're going to take 3 slow breaths. And as you breathe in, I want you to notice your belly expanding this way. As you breathe out, I'd like you just to breathe out on a shh sound. And I want you to notice these muscles in your side engaging. Whenever any of your directors talk about the word support and you go, what on earth does that mean? These are the muscles that we're referring to, not the muscles here, which we often get tense when we sing. Hand here, thumb in the side. 3 breaths in your own time, emptying your lungs to a shh. Off you go. Now, those of you that have been with Stay at Home Choir for a little while, we've talked frequently about I'm a Brit, I use Great British pounds, translate this into any currency, but we talk about our £5 breath. As if you've just found £5 on the floor, it's not a life-changing sum of money, but it will buy you a really good slice of cake, and that's good enough for me. And I want to see that breath every single time you are preparing to sing a phrase of music. From now until the last note you ever sing, you should breathe like this. Could you all do that for me? Like you've just found £5, $5, 5 whatever on the floor. Go. Now what that's doing, it should be totally silent. That's lifting your soft palate. Same feeling as when you yawn. It's lifting the soft palate. It's engaging the face. Most importantly, it's engaging your zygomatic arch, which is just these muscles. That's all it is. You don't need to remember that. That's me being a geek. But it engages the face and it increases the resonant space that you are able to use by preparing the breath well. Let's do one of those. But I'd like you now to imagine as you breathe in, you also have a belt made up of noses. I said that correctly, a belt made of noses. Imagine this image for me now. Our lungs are here, of course, they aren't anywhere else. But I want you to imagine every time you breathe that you are breathing nice and low, which is why we look for that expansion here. Thinking low takes away any tension that we might put into our larynx, into our shoulders. Just do 2 breaths of shh, shh, shh. Off you go. Shh, One more of those, breathing in. Shh, shh, shh. So there we go. Two things. You've got the 5-pound breath. You've got the ring of noses. All of your breathing should feel low and grounded and centered rather than high and frenetic. And we're always looking for these muscles to be where we're supporting the sound from. If these aren't engaging, something along the way has gone awry. Clock in with these muscles whenever you can. Tori, should we do some vocal stuff?
Absolutely. So this is so important. The reason, you might have heard this before, but the reason we're giving you all of this grounding is because Hark the Herald is quite a vocally intensive piece. The altos are already saying, you know, you've got to sing the first verse in unison, which means that you're essentially singing a soprano line. So you've really got to be able to trust your breath in order to get it going. So what we just did with Jamie was a shh, shh, shh. We're just going to add some voice onto that. So zh, zh, zh. Have a go. Zh, zh, zh. Good. And we've got quite a lot to crack through tonight, so we're going to get it up into the stratosphere quite quickly. You're going to continue using that zh sound. Zh, and zh. Good. I love how Alice and Elizabeth are showing the airspeed with their hands, just like I was doing. I find I almost do it without thinking. Here we go. Cool. I love it. Can you just say, put your hand on your chest, just like Jamie did when we were doing the breathing exercise, and just say hi and hi. Yeah. So you're old and important, and you don't need to say anything more than hi. Here we go. Hi. Good. Can you feel that engagement down here that Jamie has been talking about? Hello. Go. Hello. And let's have a little higher sounder. Woohoo! Here we go. Woohoo! Cooey! Cooey! That's the one. And hey, you! And hey, you! That's it. Really, really shout it at me. See if you can. I mean, I'm sure there must be a stay-at-home choir member that's quite close to me. So I want to be able to hear that person through my window. Hey, you! And go! Hey, you! Exactly, that's it. So that's the kind of engagement that we need. So just sing for me. Hark the herald angels sing. 1, 2, 3. Hark the herald angels sing. Good, that's nice. Now let's just take it up a little bit higher. Oh, for some reason I've got the vibraphone setting accidentally on my keyboard. I'll put it back on grand piano. So, hark the herald angels sing. Here we go, 2, 3. Hark the herald angels sing. Great. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this in sectionals, but my single piece of advice for you through this would be move through your vowels in a useful, move through your consonants in a useful way. Can you say ah, here we go. Ready and good. That's just the vowels that you use for hark the hare. And then you get which is a little bit confusing, so we won't do that just for now. But hark the, I'm trying to let the consonants be as useful as possible, and that means that I'm not chopping up my words with it. So we're going to go up a little and just go ready and let's go up one to here and staying on the vowels, ready and good. And we're going to just do a little bit more just so that the altos can get into that passagier area. Here we go, ready and one more please, ready and now if you're an alto like me, you have just found the point where you have to pivot and switch into head voice. And we're going to carry on a little bit more with that in our sectionals because we're going to change into breakout rooms so that tenors and basses can go and lap up some more wisdom from the lovely Jamie. So, Jamie, are you still there? Yes, I can see.
I am indeed.
Hey. What's happening next?
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move into our sectional rooms to work on Hark and Star Carol. In a moment, this is where we keep our fingers crossed that Zoom is being our friend today. In a moment, you will see a box appear. Rachel, I hope this is correct. Tenors and basses, it should say tenors and basses, sectional room. If you are a tenor or a bass, please click that button. If you are a soprano or an alto, you don't need to do anything.
Sit still and look pretty.
You don't need to do anything. Sit there and wait patiently. If you're a tenor or bass, click that button and join the tenor and bass sectional room with me, and we will get working. If you're a soprano or alto, just have a mini relax and focus on your breathing.
We were a little bit late starting this session, so we might overrun by five minutes or so. So we're going to head off for, I think, Jamie, did we say about 20 minutes?
Yes, we'll go to about.
We might not use the whole of it, but let's aim for about that, and then we'll reconvene. Great. Rachel, would you open the breakout rooms for us, please? There we go. You should see a little sign pop up at the bottom that says, join a breakout room. And then you can select. There we go.
Strangely, Rachel, I can't select a breakout room. I can see it filling, but I can't join it.
No, I'm the same. Probably because we're co-hosts. And for those people who are watching on YouTube, we should explain, if you are a tenor and bass, there's going to be a short hiatus in your rehearsal because the tenors and basses are going to be heading off to aha, or maybe they're not. Lots of people saying that they can't see the button. Ah, dear. Please wait to be assigned. Might be better just to keep everybody in the same place. What do you think, Rachel?
There were quite a few tenors and basses in the tenors and bass room, but they're now coming back.
Okay, fine. Well, that was fun, tenors and basses. Well, there we go. If you're watching us on YouTube, then you're in luck because we're going to have a little look through all of the parts right here. I mean, this is absolutely one of those things that's happened with the new Zoom. They've installed a load of updates, and everything that we thought worked doesn't quite work as we were expecting it to anymore. So welcome back, tenors and basses. I hope you've enjoyed your walk around the block. Okay, so let's have, I'm just going to quickly address a question in the chat. Can alto sing an octave below in a few places, or do you want to stay in the right octave? It's absolutely fine for you to sing it an octave below because the tenors and basses will also be singing it down the octave. So both of those octaves will be covered in the unison verse. Okay, just going to give you a quick rundown of the order for Hark the Herald. Even though, Rachel, would you just bring up the sheet music from YouTube as soon as you're able? As far as the score is concerned, you can see that verse 1 is written in 4-part harmony. However, we've been asked by the RPO to sing verse 1 in unison. So please, at whatever octave is comfortable for you, we just need the Hark the herald angels sing, just the melody. Okay, so we're going to practice having a go at that now. Don't worry, Charlie, we have cut our losses and we're rehearsing everybody in the same room. So the first thing we're going to do is have a sing through right from the start. And why don't we include the fanfare? I've got my Christmas hat ready, and we'll include the fanfare just to get us into the Christmas mood. How about that? Okay, everybody, scores at the ready, please. Here we go.
reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies, with the angelic host proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Christ by highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. Late in time behold him come, offspring of a virgin's womb. Veiled in flesh the Godhead see, hail the incarnate deity. Pleased as man with man to dwell, Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
Here we go with the descant.
Hail the heavenly Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness, light and life to all he brings with healing in his wings. Mighty lays his glory by, born that man no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give in second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
And then we get the second fanfare, which we won't listen to just for the moment. But just to confirm, I've seen some things on the Facebook page saying, do we have to stand still throughout the whole of the second fanfare? No, you don't have to stand still through the whole of the second fanfare. Leave a few seconds after you finish singing. Yes, Jamie, nice hat.
I remembered halfway through the intro of that I had a Christmas hat just underneath my bed. So there we go, everyone.
There we go. Right, Jamie, do you want to dive in? I've written a few questions down from the chat that I'll address.
I will. I'm gonna address a couple of those first, in fact. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that the score says deity, and I'm afraid, entirely on purpose, I ignored that when I was recording it. We're going with deity, please. The reason being is that's what Voces 8 sang, so we're going to go with it. The other one is Bethlehem versus Bethlehem. I know plenty of you will have sung Bethlehem. We're somewhere in the middle, but we're closer to Bethlehem. Please do, however, this is the good time to mention, if you are in doubt about anything, listen to those guide tracks. If you sing exactly what is in the guide tracks when you submit your recording, you are bang on. That is what you're listening for. Of course, the difficulty rehearsing like this is that we can't hear each other, so it makes life a lot harder. So the guide tracks are exactly how we would like to perform them. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the unison. I will preface all of this by saying I would highly recommend all of you go and watch the technique forum we had with Dr. Charles McDougall yesterday, I believe it was, who really delved fantastically into the words and about finding the right meaning and expression. I won't go into all of that today. I do suggest you go and watch it. But the key takeaway, the thing that we should always remind ourselves of, is that as singers, we are communicators. We are storytellers. We are not simply performers. we're here to tell a story. And of course, whether you are religious or not, this is probably one of the most well-known stories on earth. So we really need to communicate that well. But particularly in the first verse, we have quite a hard job. Singing in unison is not as easy as we may initially think. Now, preparing the breath well is really going to help, but particularly when we get to these repeated high notes, joyful all ye nations, the risk whenever you repeat a high note is that we pull flat. Now, there's a number of reasons for this, but if you feel and you in your mind are thinking, I've got to sing a high note, it's going to make that high note much harder. We talked earlier on in the project about how singing is 90% mental and 10% technique. And I think this is so true, particularly when we get to the extremes of our range. I would like you to imagine when we get these high notes that you are approaching the note from above, joyful, rather than reaching up for a high note, joy. The reason being, reaching for a note will even subconsciously introduce tension in the larynx and make those notes much, much harder. But also sing this unison phrase with meaning. It's that age-old phrase. I think you said this the other day, Tori, once more with feeling. If you haven't examined the words of this, we can't sing it with any meaning. Hark the herald angels sing doesn't mean anything. It's a sequence of notes. Hark the herald angels sing. It will help us by thinking about the meaning. Tori, did you have a hand up then, or were you conducting?
No, I was getting ready to go. Glory to the new voice. That was just me. That was the conductor in me coming out. Absolutely, and the more we can sing this with meaning, the better it's going to come across. I would like to look, please, at the bass part right at the start. So here is there's my G. Christ by highest heaven adored. With a bass, in a bass part, sorry, and indeed any part where you are approaching the lower end of your range. In a descending phrase, it's so easy to start digging into these notes. Christ by highest heaven adored, and we become slightly football crowd-like, if you will, or soccer crowd, I should say, for those of you in the States. Imagine, however, all of these notes are actually the same note. What on earth do I mean by that? If we think of a note as low or high, we trick ourselves into treating the note as low or high. Whereas if we can imagine that we are singing, Christ by highest heaven adored, in our middle range, we then take out a little bit of that psychological barrier that we put up. So these low notes shouldn't feel like they're suddenly descending. They should feel, when we sing them, they should feel just as easy as the ones in the middle of our voice. Christ by highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord, rather than digging into those notes. Tori, you look like you wanted to take over. Is there anything you'd like to go with? Oh, no. I'm happy. I've clearly just got one of those faces this evening. No, I think it's really lovely that we're covering the tenor and bass notes first, because the tenor and basses always have to wait until we get the sopranos and altos out the way. So it's lovely to do a little bit of role reversal. You crack on. Lovely. Tenors, the same thing. In our second line, in the harmony part, we get the Christ the everlasting Lord. When we get that tone from the D to the E, that's quite a wide jump at that point in our range. And unless you are this beautifully high tenor that has access to all sorts of notes way higher than I can ever hope to, that feels like quite a big jump. It certainly does to me as a baritone. But the help here is going back to the breath. And this applies to everybody. I'm trying to give things that will apply to all parts. If you can breathe the way you intend the phrase to be sung, that's going to help you so much. Start the phrase exactly how you intend to finish it, and that is with the breath. If I do a tense, tight, quick breath, I can't sing a beautiful legato phrase. Really think about how you breathe for each of these. Notice the markings, the little V or the up bow, the string players amongst you. The little V denotes a breath, and in most cases, those are a quaver breath, but do listen to the guide tracks
for those. When we get to our final refrain, hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn king. We know it so well. But by the time we get to the end, usually, those of you that sing this every single year, you've sung it 40, 50, 60, however many times, and you're exhausted. It's always the end of a carol service. It's the last thing that everybody does, and we're exhausted. Do whatever you can not to sing it from here. Let's do the bad version, please. Here is your, there's your C, there's your E. Just sing the very last line for me. Hark. And I'd like you to sing it in a tense way. I'm only going to ask you to do this once, but I want this to highlight the feeling of singing it with vocal tension. Hark the herald. You're going to lock your shoulders. Everything's going to be fairly unpleasant, but let's do a little bit of negative practice to see what the opposite is. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn king. Breathe, take a nice breath. I won't ask you to do that again, at least not until the next rehearsal. Notice all the tension that came in and the lack of musicality that was in that. That wasn't singing that, that we would be aiming for if we were being objective about this. Really think about the phrase, the flow, and the meaning of this. I think is so important. Important to do. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, Tori. What are your thoughts?
I think it would be really nice to just check that we've sung all of the tenor and bass notes, just so that people can go back and watch this as a replay and make sure that we're...
You're going to make me sing them all, aren't you? Let's start, please, with the tenor
I can sing the
part.
tenor. I tell you what, why don't you do bass and I'll do tenor?
I'm going to start with the tenor because I feel like singing tenor now.
Hooray!
Let's go from verse 2. Anybody else, do sing along, because all of these points that we'll be making will apply to everybody else. So do sing along while I'm singing these harmonies. I'm just going to do the first line, the tenor part. Here is your G. There is your B. And here is your D. Christ. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Christ by highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. Notice it's only a quaver breath at the end of that. Every time you have that quaver breath, use that for a chance of belt of noses breath and 5-pound breath. Let's carry on. Late, 2, 3, and 4. Late in time, behold him come, offspring of a virgin's womb. Now, what I would notice here, all parts, on the word virgin, the I vowel, descending in particular, virgin's womb, we often close it too much. Think as open as you can, virgin's womb, like you're enunciating it or you're announcing it to a hall filled with people, socially distanced, don't worry. Virgin's womb. It should feel nice and open. Speak that for me. Go. Virgin's womb. And now let anybody, just any funny looks you've got from anyone else in your house.
Might be the weirdest thing I've ever said on a Zoom call, that.
Explain to them what's going on. Good. But notice on the descending, on an I vowel and on a descending phrase, that's particularly difficult. Let's keep going. Third line, veiled, 2, 3, and 4. Veiled in flesh the Godhead see, hail incarnate deity. Clock if you said deity out of autopilot. Give it a circle if you did. Pleased as man with man to dwell, Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Nice and open. Now, I'm a baritone. I don't profess to be a tenor, but what I'm always thinking in a line like this is keeping the feeling of resonance in the front of my face, keeping it nice and open and making sure every time I breathe that I'm making a nice released breath so I don't introduce any unnecessary tension. Shall I do the same with the bass parts? Let's go with the bass part. From the beginning, please. Join me in a duet if you wish. Here is your G.
And I'm just going to give the full G major chord so we can have everybody else. You can join in and do a duet with the bass part.
Here we go. Verse 2, please. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Christ by highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord. Late in time, behold him come, offspring of a virgin's womb. Veiled in flesh the Godhead see, hail incarnate deity, pleased as man with man to dwell. Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Nice to sing with you. You all sound fabulous. Right, couple of questions I'd like to address. Basses, you'll notice I am singing a quaver or a 16th note in the penultimate bar. Glory to the newborn King. That is what's in the guide tracks. Please follow that. I know that is not what's written. And you'll also notice the unison marking in the last 2 bars. We are ignoring that for the sake of verse 2, our harmony verse. This is so we've got at least a little bit of harmony to work on.
Yeah, so that's the last 2 bars in harmony. Last 2 bars in harmony, last 2 bars in harmony.
When you record Jan-Marie or Jan-Marie, first verse is unison. Second verse is in harmony. Third verse, sopranos who want to are singing the descant, and everybody else is singing the tune in unison.
If you do what's sung on the guide tracks, you will not go far wrong, because what is sung on the guide tracks is exactly what we're expecting to hear in terms of breath, pronunciation, unison, harmony. It's all there on the guide tracks. Great. Okie dokie. So we've got altos. I'm gonna go through the alto parts. This is a Hark the Herald Angels rehearsal, so we'll move on to looking at Star Carol when we get on to Star Carol week next week. Yes, good. That's great. So we've got somebody asking how they access the scores. If you go to the website, which is www.stayathomechoir.com, you log in to our Christmas project. There's a button called Get Instructions, and everything is listed in a big long list on there, including the score. It says the score, and then it says click here to get your score, and it loads up and you can print it out. Okay, so going to go back to look at the alto line. If you haven't got a score, you can go and log on pretty quickly and you can access it within a few minutes, so you can get up and singing with us. So altos, once you've finished, hi everybody asking about the dress code. Yes, that is in the FAQs. Let me post the link to the FAQs just here. There we go. Sorry, I'm messaging somebody privately. There you go. Link to the FAQs. Oh, sent to everybody in the waiting room. Well done, me. Everybody in the meeting. Boom. There you go. Have a little look at our FAQs. We've got special Christmas FAQs, which hopefully answer all. Hi, Amarel. I'm just going to post that link to the FAQs again because the dress code is right there. Basically, you can wear whatever makes you feel comfortable. And if you'd like to buy a t-shirt, they're on the homepage of the Stay at Home Choir website. Come on, altos, let's get some singing done. So, you finished pretending to be sopranos in verse 1, and then we go into harmony. So we've got Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Okay, let's do that all together, please. And hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Sopranos Sopranos, if you want to sing your, oh, heavens, oh, you've got me doing the wrong verse. Oh, come on. I'll sing the second verse then. But hopefully the notes are still useful. I'll sing the second phrase now. Sopranos, if you want to do a little duet with me, feel free. Here we go. And late in time, behold him come, offspring of a virgin's womb. And then we're going on. Veiled in flesh, the God at sea, hail the incarnate deity, pleased as man with man to dwell, Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Yeah, you're right, Lena. It is absolutely beautiful. Glory to the newborn King. Because we do have those last two bars in harmony. Okie dokie. Hopefully it's all pretty self-explanatory. When you get to pleased as man, it's quite high and it's in a weird place in the voice for altos. So again, I'm going to revert you back to what Jamie said at the beginning about breath. You want to let a lovely released breath in, that belt of noses around your waist. Let's all just practice breathing in as if we're breathing a nice low breath. And now we need to do it in an energetic way. So we're going to go release like this. And pleased as man with man to dwell. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to give you a count of 3, and then we're going to release the breath on the 4th beat. 1, 2, 3. Pleased as man with man to dwell. Good. I hope that sopranos, tenors, and basses, everybody's either on a C or an E. Let's do that all together in glorious muted 4th-part harmony. 1, 2, 3. Pleased as man with man to dwell, Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory. Sorry, I keep looking. Glory to the newborn King. Forgive me there, sorry, I'm used to singing glory to the newborn King, which is a completely different arrangement. Glory to the newborn King. Yeah, I feel you, Susie. Great. So people are asking about specific pronunciations. Stay-at-home choir veterans are going to know what I'm about to say. It is listen to the guide tracks, and the pronunciation that you hear on the guide track is that, thank you very much, getting lots of thumbs up. Pronunciation that you hear on the guide tracks is the pronunciation to do. Fantastic. All right. Sopranos, you have been utterly neglected until now. We're just going to go quickly through the descant before we finish, because Glynis looks like she might be about to burst into tears because she hasn't had a chance to sing the descant yet. Okay, Janet, I will count the measures at the beginning of the fanfare before the choir entrance, but I'm pretty sure it's either 8 or 16. But the more you listen to it, the more you'll get to know it, and the more you'll learn when to come in. Okie dokie. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. Rachel, if you're still there, would you mind bringing up our YouTube video for us again, and we'll have a little sing-along to it? If not, I will do it nice and quickly. Maybe we're out of luck there. Here is my YouTube. 1 moment, please. Your patience is appreciated. SATB.
While you do that, Tori, I'm actually going to suggest something for the sopranos in this.
Go for
While
it.
Tori's finding that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to spotlight myself. Apologies to those of you that have me on a large screen looming over you. Looking at the last page, we're so often singing in our high range like this, and I see so often this question of how do I increase my range? How do I sing higher, or sometimes how do I sing lower? I'd love to just start this phrase at the end. Now, I can't sing this high at this pitch, but I'd like you to either sing it to a brrr or a vroom. Just try and make that noise with me. Vroom. I'm letting my cheeks puff out. I'm sticking my tongue out just slightly and I'm singing through it. This is another one of those semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. Go. Let's take that very first line. I'm almost definitely going to crack on this, but you can all laugh at me together. If you can sing that line like this, you can sing it with words. You'll run out of breath a lot faster though. Just try it like that. There's your starting note. 1, 2, 3, 4. I told you I'd crack, didn't I? But what this does is this forces, it equalizes the pressure above and below your vocal folds. It forces the muscles here to work far more effectively without being unnecessarily tense. But it increases the resonant space up here, and it forces you to find that space in an efficient way. So if you are practicing this and thinking, this is so high, I'm going to get to the end of it and I'm not going to be able to speak for a week, practice it like this. It'll work so, so well. Now, having not practiced it like that, shall we sing it through?
I was going to say, if you think that you are sick of practicing it to a v or a brr or a whatever, do it some more. Because as I said in my in our very first meeting for the Christmas project, your brain is clever. Your brain hooks onto the principle of how to produce that sound very, very quickly, and your dumb body takes ages to learn. So keep doing it, keep practicing it around the house. You know, they say it takes sort of a few months really for your body to learn any new muscle memory, and you've got 5 days. So practice it around the house all you can. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my sound and we're going to sing through this descant. Alto, tenor, bass, if you want to join in, you can join in on the tune. Nobody else can hear you except your cat, so maybe you want to join in on the descant and just have a crack at it. It's one of the benefits of online singing. Here we go.
Hail the heaven, Prince of Peace. Hail the Son of Righteousness. Light and life to all he brings with healing in his wings. Mighty is his glory by, born that man no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give in second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call one heck of a rallentando. There's a big rallentando there. Any sopranos who don't feel like they want to sing the descant, you do not have to. Jamie, am I right there? Is that going to mess up your audio?
Absolutely. Sopranos, if you look at that descant and it fills you with dread, like it does me, by all means, if you would usually sing soprano 2, by all means sing the melody for that. Please don't stress yourself out with a line that you don't need to sing.
And just before we finish our rehearsal today, don't forget we have got tenor and bass and soprano and alto sectionals next week. So this isn't your only input on Hark the Herald. But I just want to look over 3 specific bars of that descant. And they are the ones with the words, born that man no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth. So I'd like us to go back to what Jamie said of getting into buzzy sounds. Can everybody just go, here we go. Okay, so if you think about the pitches that you covered there, you've easily gone past the range that you need to sing for this phrase. I would say take the text out and do it to okay, let's try it to loo 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 loo. Ready and okay, now let's do it to a zzz. Here we go. Ready and what you might find is you're using a lot more air than you did before. Embrace it. Embrace it. Somebody's talking about guide tracks. You head to our website. It's www.stayathomechoir.com and you click on the Christmas project, log in and get instructions. I think Rachel can also post the link to the FAQs in the chat so that you can head to the FAQs. That also tells you how to access instructions.
I'd like to take one point that I've just seen. If any of you are struggling with brr or rr or zzz, I would actually suggest, if you can't roll your R's, don't worry. A third of people can't, or 2/3 of people can't. Take 2 fingers. I'm going to spotlight myself again, so I'm not just talking into the ether. Take 2 fingers and just press ever so slightly on the sides of your mouth. That will help you with brrr. Have a go at that. There we are. If that will help you. Otherwise, z, zh, or v is a great replacement if you do struggle with any of the bubbly noises. That's absolutely fine. Those of you asking about breathing, I would suggest you do everything you can to follow the breathing in the score as it's marked and also recorded in those guide tracks that are available via the website. If you're really struggling with that, you are singing with 1,000 or more, potentially 3,000 other people. So by all means, do breathe where is necessary for you. Don't worry too much if that's going to be a real difficulty for you. The shorter breath in bar 6. Yes, good question, Laura. The shorter breath is simply that. I would suggest you go and listen to the guide track, but it is to allow the movement in the bass part. If you look at the bass, you've got mercy mild. So you've only got a semi-quaver breath there. See, have a listen to the bass learning track. That might well help you out. Tori, sorry for interrupting them.
Yeah, I'm just looking at our schedule for week 2, and I can see we've got Tutti rehearsal with Tori and Tutti rehearsal with Graham. Yes, so we have got another rehearsal on this. It's not sectionals like I said it was. It is a Tutti, but we will see if we can sort the breakout spaces for next time. Sorry that didn't work out today, but we do have another rehearsal for Hark the Herald. So if you feel like you need any more note bashing help, we will be right here. Yes, that was fireworks. We'll be right here to give you all of the help that you need. Ladies and gentlemen, 5th of November. Google it. The 5th of November is Bonfire Night in the UK. Yes, there we go. Thank you so much for coming, everybody, and thanks for bearing with us as we started a little late and overran slightly. I hope you've had an enjoyable session, and do check out the website for all of the submission deadlines. Hark the Herald is quite quick because we are sending in the tracks to be part of the RPO's Christmas concert, so they've got to squish us in with lots of other things, including Roddy Williams and a really large orchestra. And of course Voces 8, our old friends. So thank you very much for joining us, and good luck with recording Hark the Herald. Hopefully it's a pretty simple, straightforward one, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Have a wonderful weekend.
Lovely to see you, everyone. Bye.
Lovely to see you. Bye.